You're a threat to their system. You're a threat to all the things in Washington, D.C., the swamp, the things that people have rejected. You're a threat to that. And so they're coming after you.
Well, here we are today on the David Pakman Show. And he, our favorite idiot liberal, David Pakman, just cannot stop with his low IQ takes. In this clip here, he whines like a baby about how he was treated on the Megyn Kelly show. And then he joins in with the Pete Hegseth smear campaign to try to discredit Pete Hegseth as President-elect Donald Trump's pick for defense secretary. So let's get into it. Let's see what idiot crybaby David Pakman has to say, and if maybe he's going to put forth some valid arguments this time. But so far, in all the videos I've covered of him, I haven't heard anything particularly intelligent come out of his mouth. Let's get into it.
All right, this is one of the funniest interviews that I have seen. In an attempt to stop the flow of negative reporting about Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense nominee, Pete Hegseth, Hegseth decided to do a friendly interview with Megyn Kelly. Remember when I went on Megyn Kelly's show and she and Hogan Gidley double teamed me and it was just a complete and total waste of my time? Well, Pete Hegseth gets a different sort of treatment than I did when I went on Megyn Kelly's show. The interview is funny. The interview is sad, but primarily the interview is a reminder that Hegseth has no business in the world being even nominated or considered for Secretary of Defense, never mind being confirmed. Here is Pete, not exactly convincing in saying he has no drinking problem. Listen to what he had to say. You tell me whether you think this is convincing.
First of all, I've never had a drinking problem. No one's ever approached me and said, oh, you should really look at getting help for a drink. Never. I've never sought counseling, never sought help.
I've never sought help is not really proof that you don't need help.
I respect and appreciate people who do. But, what do guys do when they come back from war oftentimes? Have some beers. How do you deal with the demons you see on the battlefield? Sometimes it's with a bottle. Unfortunately, tragically, for too many guys, it's with the bottle, and then it's depression, and even worse, suicide.
He seems to actually be acknowledging that this is a problem, just not as bad a problem as it is for others who, for example, tragically take their own lives.
Sounds like he's acknowledging to me that he goes out for drinks with his buddies. That's what it sounds like. And as far as I know, Pete Hegseth, he's a veteran. As he said, he was deployed in combat zones. And yeah, when I think soldier, especially, all soldiers, especially high-level soldiers, drinking culture often is part of that lifestyle. Work hard and play very, very hard. Like, is this meant to be a big surprise? Is this what they're trying to smear him on? Is this what David Pakman really thinks, he and the liberal media are going to take Pete Hegseth down with? Maybe they will. I don't know. But it seems ludicrous to me.
We've got an epidemic of that in our country. Thank God, by the grace of God, I found my chapters of purpose that pulled me out of that. I found, in many ways, I found two things, my two J's. My Jenny, my wife Jennifer, changed my life, saved me. There's just no doubt about it. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. First of all, I've never...
So if you want to convince people you have no drinking problem, this is not exactly the answer that I would give. He sort of laughs a little bit, denies he has the problem, but then does say he did self-medicate with alcohol when he came back from war, but it wasn't as bad as what happened to some other people. Not really convincing. Moments after claiming that the allegations are made up, he then does say, oh, there are some kernels of truth, some kernels of truth here.
What you're seeing right now with me is the art of the smear. It is the classic art of the smear. Take whatever tiny kernels of truth, and there are tiny, tiny ones in there, and blow them up into a masquerade of a narrative about somebody that I am definitely not. And what they...
So far we've got He did come back and do a bunch of drinking, just not as much as some other people. And the allegations are based on kernels of truth, but he says they're exaggerated. So he's mostly admitting to the whole thing.
Ever quote, and we'll get into.
Wait a second. These allegations, as far as I know, are just anonymous allegations made by, you know, like you read in the media, well, all the media outlets, to be fair, but especially in the mainstream liberal media, liberal biased media, it's always, you know, sources, unnamed sources say that, you know, and with him, unnamed sources say, you know, that he smelled of alcohol when coming to work, or something like that, I assume. Now, if there was something actually serious, we would hear it. You know, if he was beating his wife while drunk, or if he was, you know, beating colleagues while drunk, or just doing engaging in completely outrageous behavior at work while drunk, I think we would have heard about that, and somebody would actually say it, and he probably would have been fired too, for that matter. So to me, it still sounds like a work hard, play hard kind of guy.
This too, are the legions of people from who I served with in combat, multiple tours, from the multiple veterans organizations that I very proudly ran, and I really want to get into that, and my time at Fox News. They never asked the people closest to me.
No.
They never asked the people who were involved directly. And when they do, and I've got a list right here of people, and Will Cain and my hosts at Fox News have come out, all the folks on Fox Friends have all come out and said, this is not Pete, and we've worked with Pete for 10 years, every single morning, every single day. They never ask those people.
Yeah.
And that's what a smear looks like.
Yeah. They didn't speak to the couple of people who didn't have horrible stories to report about Pete Hegseth. Megyn Kelly then tries to help him out by saying, do you think they're just doing to you what they did to Brett Kavanaugh? Which, by the way, what they did to Brett Kavanaugh was there were all sorts of serious allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, and so they were investigated and they were explored in his confirmation hearings. And it's all just a smear as far as Pete Hegseth is concerned.
Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd right now?
I had a member not 45 minutes ago look me in the eye in private, just he and I, and say, that's what they're trying to do to you.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do to you. That's their playbook. Get ready for more. And they're going to make it up, just like they have so far. All anonymous, all innuendo, all rumor, nothing sourced, no verification, and they're just going to keep doing it because you're a threat to them.
It's important to mention that at least one of the people who could come out and answer questions about Pete Hegseth can't, because she's under an NDA that she signed when Pete Hegseth paid her off. We'll deal with that later as well, by the way.
You're a threat to their system. You're a threat to all the things in Washington, D.C., the swamp, the things that people have rejected. You're a threat to that.
Well, it is true. You know, when you're over the target, that's when you get all the flack. So, obviously, personally, I have no idea if the guy has a serious drinking problem or if he caused problems because of his drinking at work, or at home. I think if it was an actual problem, then we would know. There would be allegations with evidence. And yeah, referring to Kavanaugh, well, that was a whole shit show, wasn't it? I mean, you bring people out of the woodwork claiming that something happened, what was it, 30 years prior or something like that? It's absolute madness. I mean, these people shouldn't even be given, I mean, in that case, at least an actual person came forward. I can't remember the lady's name. She did come forward and make her claims. That's something. That's much more than what's going on here, where it's just all anonymous. But it was still, where did they dig that lady up? And in what possible world could you just imagine listening to her say what supposedly happened 30 or 40 years before? And she didn't even remember the details of herself. It's just ludicrous. But politics, it's hardball.
And so they're coming after you. And I know that, he knows that. And when you stand firm on that, it's not difficult to just continue to fight. So yeah, we saw what happened, but guess what happened? Kavanaugh stood up and he fought and he won. And hopefully Republicans have learned that lesson.
Yeah. So hopefully they're all going to stand up and win. Now, hilariously, later in the interview, Pete Hegseth says, you know what? If I do become Secretary of Defense, I'm going to stop my drinking. The drinking that isn't a problem, that is being made up, that he doesn't really do, he's going to stop it. So you don't have to worry.
And, you know, we knew about the wife situation, right?
Sure.
But nothing with respect to alcohol.
It is again, the anatomy of a smear. They're trying to extend it out because they want to create a scenario where senators go, okay, I could handle this, I could handle that, but if he's drinking, I can't handle that.
Yep.
That is by far the least true aspect of any part of this.
So have you?
How could a senator be against somebody who drinks? I bet all those guys, I bet a significant proportion of congressmen and senators are outright drunks or drink a lot. Yeah, and there's, okay, so he drinks every night. So what? Maybe he even gets drunk a few times a week at home or out with the boys. So what? Is it a problem? That's the thing. Is it a problem? Does it prevent him from doing his job?
Stop drinking now, or what's this?
Thank you for asking that. So when I was...
Thank you so much, Megan, for asking that terrific question.
So my plan going forward, ongoing, is when I deployed, we had something called General Order Number 1. And in General Order Number 1, it is you are not allowed to drink while you're on deployment, right? So if you're in Iraq and Afghanistan in a combat zone, you're not allowed to drink. That's how I view this role as Secretary of Defense, is that I'm not going to have a drink at all. And it's not hard for me because it's not a problem for me.
Right.
But I need to make sure the senators and the troops and President Trump and everybody else knows when you call me 24/7, you're getting fully dialed in, Pete, just like you always did in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I hate to say it, but this is pretty classic alcoholism behavior.
What is alcoholism? I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs over terms here. To me, alcoholism means somebody who needs alcohol to function, basically, and who can't, they can't do life properly without alcohol. In other words, alcohol is necessary for them to get through life, or it makes them, alcohol is such a problem for them that they can't work properly or maintain relationships properly, that sort of thing. If you like to get drunk, but it's not affecting your work or your life, basically, is that alcoholism? I don't think so, but, it seems to be, David Pakman seems to have a problem with people who drink, basically.
And I don't say that as an
And to come back to what Pete Hegseth was saying, basically if you're on duty, drinking on duty is a big no-no. So apparently when you're on deployment in a combat zone, you are on duty for that entire deployment. Okay. So, fair enough. No booze. You have to be ready to go at a moment's notice, anytime, day or night. That makes sense. To me, that makes sense. If he's going to treat his stint in the White House the same way, then that makes sense too. I mean, God knows most politicians don't do that when they get to the White House, but okay. If he treats it as a tour of duty, fair enough. Pakman, of course, sees this as a negative, as an admission of his guilt.
Insult. I mean, it's a classic thing where people who have a problem with alcohol use or abuse say, I'm going to stop drinking if XYZ happens. If the alcohol's not really a problem, why would you even need to stop drinking? Some of you know that over the years, I've gotten emails on the show. Usually it's like one a year from people who go, David, I'm in recovery myself, and I can tell from your glassy eyes that it seems that you're drinking during the show, and so on and so forth. And every time I explain that it's the lights that make my eyes shiny.
Oh, maybe Pete Hegseth should say that next time someone accuses him. Anyway, I think that's enough of David Pakman. He hasn't changed. He's just the same old idiotic libtard as he's always been. Just jumping on the smear bandwagon against Pete Hegseth. We'll see whether or not Hegseth gets confirmed. It'll be interesting. Of course, I think Trump is going to have a lot of battles for his confirmations. But we'll be seeing that soon enough. Anyway, in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments. Any comment really helps the algorithm find me. And please like and subscribe because that helps me grow the channel and continue making content for you.